tears and play the characters that you cheer. So join us as we go below the frame.
On this episode of Below the Frame, I'm talking to Muppet Performer Bruce Lanoil. We talk about family, how Bruce became a puppeteer, and the many, many projects he's done over the years. We will also be paying yet another visit to the Injury Corner, and we'll ask a puppeteer a question about not puppets. Okay, it's time to go below the frame.
Go below the frame.
Welcome to Below the Frame with me, Matt Vogel. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. If you like our podcast, please do us the kindness of rating and reviewing it wherever you do that kind of thing. I don't know where that is. Yelp? Is that where? I have no idea. But just please do it. Anyway, today I am talking with Bruce Lanoil. Bruce has been around performing with Muppets and Henson and all kinds of projects over the years, but I don't think I ever really got to know, or maybe didn't even know Bruce until, very well anyway, until we did the Muppets film in 2011. Bruce was my right hand for Uncle Deadly for most of that shoot, but that only scratches the surface of what Bruce Lanoil has done. Plus, he's just a heck of a person, fun to have around on a set. Got a lot of big thoughts, as you're going to see today. So let's do it. Let's go below the frame with Bruce Lanoil. Bruce Lanoil. Oh, no.
That's it? How many of you have done hundreds of these? You can't remember one person's name? Fine.
Here we go.
Use somebody else's name.
Bruce Lanoil, welcome to Below the Frame. How are you, my friend?
I'm hanging tough. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak to me on this little podcast. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, but I gotta say something first, because Matt, you're a special individual. Everybody loves you so much. You're the Tom Hanks, Jimmy Stewart, Opie on steroids guy. We love you for that. But I gotta say, for me, doing this show, the real star of the show is Jack, your son Jack. He's luminous, and I would suggest being nice to him because in a couple years, you're going to need him.
I know. He does these things very. He's very.
He's really good, boy.
Yeah, he's great. He's a good guy. Well, let's talk about you, though.
Oh, fine.
Get Jack.
Don't say that. This is going to be edited out. That's fun.
He never listens.
He doesn't listen anyway. Like my kids.
Where'd you grow up, Bruce?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, like a lot of us. Very proud of that too. Brooklyn Jewish Hospital. They cranked out all the Jews for show business. Vaudevillians, keep them coming. Yeah. So I was only there for first 5 years of my life. The things that I remember about it were the exhaust from the Good Humor truck. Because I was little and I was, I was holding my mom's hand, and it was always like winter, so we're freezing and we're getting Good Humor because my God, I have to have Good Humor. So the blah, 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 in my face, and then a coconut bar. That's my triggers. That kind of set me on the path of destruction, but it was delicious. And then another thing was when President Kennedy was shot. I remember my mom just almost dropping me, and I was in front of a black and white television, and it was just, I think I was 3.5, but it was the first cognitive memory, because she panicked, and she was, of course, the whole world panicked, and everything stopped, and it was that one moment of not being safe. Oh, it was amazing. Oh, and also there was a giant slide, and I fell off it in my snowsuit. Luckily, my mom, you put on the stuff. You came from the Midwest, you put on layers and layers. So I couldn't even move, So I'm on the slide. I shouldn't even, walked up it. It was actually, if you touch it with your tongue, you could stick. Yep. There was that kind of thing. So I just tumbled down and I fell, and I had a lollipop in my mouth. And my mom was like, "Oh, he's dead!" And she was running, and I remember just coming to and a lollipop, and I still kept the lollipop because I wanted to finish it. It was a Dum Dum. It was a really good. I think it was root beer, really good one. So
that's a good one.
But I didn't die. I don't know if the Dum Dum saved me or the Dum Dum falling. Either way, I'm still here. But that was Brooklyn.
Here. Well, and so tell me a little bit about your family.
Family. Well. My family, my mom and dad came from Brooklyn, I don't want to say tenements, but one-bedroom apartments, because they were kids of immigrants. And especially my father, because my grandfather, he spoke broken English. He was from Israel, and have a lot of relatives in Israel still. He was a painter, and him and his partner Israel painted a lot of the schools in all over the city. And there's a story in our family too about one time they couldn't pay him, and they said to him, "Aaron, would you like us? We can't pay you right now, but we can give you a house." Can you imagine having owned a house in the city?
Yeah.
And he said, "No, I wait. It's fine." And that's the thing. It was like the lost rich. That was the biggest joke in our family, which came from a Jerry Lewis movie. My mom and dad. That's where we all gathered. Was in front of the television when there was a Jerry Lewis movie or a special. I mean, that's when all the mishigas and the craziness and the yelling and screaming, which is really pertinent in my family, settled down, and we could all laugh together. And that was one of the keys that I think all of us, where you go, if I could make people laugh, that will, distill some of the difficulties that everybody's going through. But they couldn't wait to get out of Brooklyn, the two of them. They got married, really young. They hardly had any life experience, and so you never left that circle, of the family in Brooklyn.
But where did you end up going?
So that's the thing. My family, my mom, she's a firecracker. She was sleeping on a couch basically. She never had her own room, and my dad had that little as well. I mean, my mom had an older sister. My dad, so she was the youngest. My dad was a middle child, and so they both wanted to make their mark, and they both wanted to be who they were. So they wanted to just break out. So what they did was move to New Jersey, which is like going to the moon in the family circle. And so we went to Exit 5, which is like where? And we ended up in a small town called Willingboro, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And my dad, they bought a house for, I think, $15,000. It was 3/4 of an acre. And it was the biggest, and they scraped, and they had to get favors and things in the family, which when you borrow money from your family, it could be very dicey,
Yeah.
But we were the first to go to New Jersey, and it was rural, and it was ours, and they were. That was when my dad was happiest, because he had all this space, and it was his land, and he could do whatever he wanted. When we got a dog, boy, did we get a dog. First, we had a dog named Snoopy, and the dog snapped at my sister, and I liked Snoopy because he didn't snap at me. But but that wasn't very nice. So, I gave Snoopy extra food, and one day I gave Snoopy like 4 or 5 Oreos, because I grew up kind of heavy, and so food that's a whole other issue, but food was a very important thing. We were told there was people starving in China, you got to finish your plate. In fact, you got to finish your plate if you want to have dessert. My mom was the greatest dessert maker ever. She'd make pudding, and in every little nook and cranny there was bowls in the fridge, and that skin on the pudding, and those lumps of pudding. Oh, so good.
But you had to finish your food if you wanted to.
I had to finish my food. So, and a lot of the food was not that healthy back then, It just wasn't. We were just coming off of ketchup as a sauce on spaghetti. Leaps and bounds. My kids now, they chase Michelin star restaurants. So I broke that chain.
That's right. Yes,
Thank
you did.
God.
Yeah. Can you tell me, Bruce, what were the kind of things that you did as a kid when you moved to New Jersey? What did you do?
Wow. I know. I thought about it. I thought, was I just a sad person? Because there was bullying going on because I was fat, and there was only like 3 or 4 Jews in the school Jewish kids that I went to. But that didn't bother me. It was like I was encased in my body. And I realized I couldn't get out of it. There was no diets or anything like that. But I felt strangely at peace, because I knew that I was sort of observing. When you're heavy, you're kind of ignored, unless you do something. You stand up and do things, So everything was more calculated, and I watched and learned a lot. And I had a lot of time to myself, and I was always a singular type of friend. I always had like a best friend. But in New Jersey, we were relatively happy. We got after. Oh, it was the dog story. So I gave Snoopy the 5 things, and then I think it was the next day, my mom said we had to get rid of Snoopy. I said, what? I was devastated. She goes, yeah, his stomach turned over and he passed away.
Oh no!
This wasn't the case though. because he was snapping at my sister, she couldn't have him. I didn't know for 6 or 7 years until we had a family conversation. He goes, "Oh yeah, we had to get rid of Snoopy because he was biting June, my sister."
And you're thinking, you thought you had done
Snoopy.
it. Oh, gee.
So I carried that all my life, at least until my early teens. So that was interesting. But the consolation prize is we got a Great Dane named Princess. It was like a small horse, Matt.
Yeah,
she was gorgeous. I mean, she was brindle color, and she was the kindest. The Marmaduke, most beautiful, loving. We would lay her on a couch, and she put her head in your lap when you were eating, and then your lap is soaked because she's just pouring, feed me. But she was so kind and so beautiful.
Wow. When you were a kid, what is this? Is this like? Are we in the 70s?
We're in the
now?
60s, pal. We're in the 60s.
In the 60s. So
I grew up in such an interesting time.
Yeah. So when did you become aware? Or did you become aware as a child of Jim Henson, of Sesame Street?
Puppets, not so much puppets, because the things that were around me were so intriguing. Every night we would watch the Vietnam War on the news. So I would play was everything, Matt. That's where I would play so hard and so intricately. I mean, we'd play war, my friends and I, but we were watching everything in real time together. There was no, of course there's these theories and this and that, but it happened. And it was, how did the cameras capture that? How did we see the first step? How did they do that with the technology that was available? I mean, we just got transistor radios. We were freaking out and so happy.
Yeah, and they put a man on the moon. He's there.
Maybe I can go.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And I said, everything was possible, everything. It didn't matter where you were because it felt like every kid can become president or wanted to become president, maybe. And I got into student government and actually was the president of my junior high school. And because it was something that you could do, and I wanted to just do everything,
So what as you are going through school, particularly leading up to college, what are you thinking you're going to do? I mean, was play inspiring you to look to a career in the arts, in acting, in something like that?
Well, yeah, there was experiences in school. It was like we always did the choirs, and we sang secular songs and stuff, and so there was a Christmas pageant, and I was the heavy kid, so they said, "You want to be Santa?" And they knew I was gregarious because I couldn't contain myself. I had so much energy. I also had a lot of anger and fury. So the emotions, controlling the emotions was very, very hard. But they wanted me to do it, and I did do it. So my mom sewed me into one of her sweaters, and we put cotton, and then his big beard, and so I was Santa. And I learned all the lines, and I was doing a great job. But because I had his beard, it was basically like this. We couldn't hear you, but we knew you were great. And I said, okay. But being chosen and doing that was like, ooh, I kind of like this.
You liked that experience of being on stage and hearing applause or laughter.
There was like, I wasn't made fun of then. I was accepted as Santa. So that was a eye-opening experience. And the other one, maybe a little bit of possible puppet possibilities, was we made paper mache stuff. You remember that smell of paper mache? Oh yeah. And that feel and that warmth. Yeah. So I made a Snoopy. I saw Snoopy because he was embedded in me because I love those specials. Peanuts was a group of friends that. They all had flaws. It was a prelude to Muppets, and they still accepted each other. Charlie Brown, but still Charlie Brown did get an invite. Charlie Brown got a rock, but he was still part of the group, Yep, and everybody had their quirks. It was very Muppety, really. So I made a Snoopy, and it wasn't with a mouth, but I love that Snoopy. It was the first and only puppet I made until college, where I discovered puppets. But not in college, but somewhere else, which we'll get to. But that was the only time I really played with puppets. But my first movie was when I was 5. I went to the Fox Theater, holding my mom's hand, and there was Mary Poppins. So as a first movie, there's characters dancing with cartoon characters.
Yeah, how
there
cool
was
is that?
People singing their feelings. There was, it was just everything. It was perfect. You know,
it's a very magical movie.
Oh, and emotionally rectification with the father. You know,
Yes.
Let's go fly a kite, and it's like, Dad, let's go fly a kite. You know.
What did you go to college to study?
Oh,
and where
okay.
did you go?
So what happened in New Jersey is that, and sadly for my sister, we always moved after sixth grade, and then going to junior high school. We went from the moon, which is New Jersey, to Mars, which was California. My dad got an
went to
opportunity.
California.
My God, it was like unheard of. Why are you doing that? What are you, crazy? How could you leave the East Coast? Nothing existed after, I guess,
yeah, and so
Virginia.
much family was there in Brooklyn and New York.
They needed to break away more. It was and my father had this great opportunity. So my mom thought, yeah, okay, great. This is going to be great for the family. And I have to thank my parents for taking that gigantic leap, because honestly, all this probably wouldn't have happened to me if I wasn't, we went to Woodland Hills, which is in the San Fernando Valley, and the possibility of show business, we went to Grauman's Chinese, and we went to Universal Studios and Disneyland, and my God, you're seeing all this fantasy and fantastical things, and I'm still going, I don't know, how can I, I'm not even how can I, I just loved it, and I don't know if I hoped for that. It was junior high school where I had my first real play. Mr. Clegg, he was this kind of jaded, burnt out actor, and he was doing this little gig with the junior high school, Hale Junior High School, and we did a play, and the first play we did was a play called The Lottery. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I don't know that one.
Shirley Jackson, I think. But it's a play where they have a lottery, and then the winner of the lottery is chosen to stand in a circle and to keep the peace of the town. They're stoned to death by all the other townspeople. This is junior high school, 1973.
Dear goodness.
Yeah, edgy. And we were like, yeah, let's do this. So it was my wife who got stoned, not that way, but the bad way.
Yeah.
And it was great. Everybody was rocked, but it was like a lot. So he did something a little more sedate, which was a timeout for Ginger. And I was the father, and it was the lead. And then everybody loved it. And at the end, there was 5 curtain calls, And my mom taking picture in front of the stage. Mom, go away. You can't do this. You got to sit down. So she's so proud. And so it was the 5 curtain calls that I went, you know what? This is good.
Yeah.
This is really good. I want to get some attention here.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense. And it feels like it's in a positive way.
It was so much joy, and all the hard work paid off. And then you go, this is worth working really hard for,
Yeah.
And
you found that thing that I think you found that thing that you were connecting with.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, obviously now, but looking back, it does seem like that was the thing that was going to be your path. That was the path you were going to take. So what did you end up doing?
Well, I had an amazing drama teacher, Dolores Fishley, and we had a very contentious relationship. Strangely enough, my mom's named Dolores, and so I had another Dolores in my life, and both were, no nonsense. So she wouldn't take any nonsense from me. She taught me discipline. So the first Shakespearean show, she did full Shakespearean things. She cast me as Petruchio, and I counted the lines. It was 507 lines in Shakespearean verse that I had to learn. Never having done it before. And I don't know how I did. I don't have that brain anymore, but I absorbed it. And she went, I can help you. I said, no, I got to do this myself. So I would record myself, and I would listen to the cadence, and we watched a couple other performances of other actors, but I did it, and I became Petruchio. And, once I had the ball, because you have the ball, you're on the stage almost all the time,
Yeah.
And it was so much responsibility. I was so proud of myself for doing that. That I actually could do it, and then people came, and I actually came through. That informed me, that maybe I can just do about anything, because that was impossible. This was while going to school. It wasn't like I was in a rep company, but I loved it, and I was really good at it. But I've always battled my ego. I would let it, fill me up, and thinking I was something special. I was not just one of the gang. Because I had a chip on my shoulder, because I had a lot to prove, because once I got to high school and puberty kicked in, the fat kind of melted off, and all of a sudden I was a semi-attractive, more normal person. And that power and stuff and having all of that attention was overwhelming. And I didn't know how to juggle relationships because I never had them growing up. I had my best friend Greg, and he would sit on me when I had I would go crazy, and he would go, "You calm down yet? You can't get off me." Yeah, I'm okay. And so we would go on with our friendship. But I mean, without those, stopgap measures, I still have trouble, understanding relationships because they're so complicated. As puppeteers, we're like gladiators, we're friends, and then we're always going against each other. And then when you say you get a job, you don't know if you want to call, "Hey, I kind of got it," and you're apologizing for getting it, and "Oh no, I'm happy for you," and you say it to everybody else. Isn't that it's a really weird thing we do?
You said it, Bruce. We will be back with Bruce Lanoil in a few minutes, but first, come in. Jack, yeah, come in. He must not hear me. Jack, come in.
Can I come in?
Yes, I said come in like 100 times.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Got my music in.
Well, when you knock on the door, maybe you should...
Blah, 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 blah. We all know why I'm here. It's time for the injury corner. Oh, I can't wait to hear how some poor puppeteer got hurt. And this time, make it a double shot of pain. Injury corner starts now.
Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Just give me a second. Sorry, I have to stand up. Oh, I have to stand up. Okay. Let me just go for a minute.
Frankie Cordero, welcome to the Injury Corner.
Oh, thank you.
Have you ever had an injury that you'd like to talk about, something that you did while you were puppeteering?
I have 2 injuries I can think of that related to puppeteering.
Okay.
When I was working on the national tour of Walking with Dinosaurs, it was all animatronic puppetry. So we were doing it from afar over a Wi-Fi system. And my controls were a keyboard and a joystick, sort of like a flight simulator joystick, video game joystick.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of standing in place and a lot of very small controlled movements with your thumb or finger. And we did a ton of shows, and I'd already done, I think, one other tour of that before. And so one day, my pinky and my ring finger went completely numb. I can't remember what this tendon was called, but there was like my tendon actually slipped away from my elbow joint, and it was out of place. So I had to do a lot of physical therapy to get it back in. The option was either to do the physical therapy and get it back in, or they'd have to actually operate and place like a stop, basically place like a wire over to make sure it never slipped out again, sort of a guide to keep it in there. So for quite a while, I didn't know what it was, and then they ended up saying it was overuse just from, it's probably an injury that I never really played many video games as a kid, but it's probably a popular gaming injury, perhaps, or, joystick injury.
You didn't have to do the surgery?
No, I didn't end up doing the surgery. Luckily, because I was still in the middle of the show, but learned to do some left-handed stuff as well.
And what was your second injury?
Second injury, this was more of an injury that I had before going into an audition. So the day before auditioning for Madame Butterfly at the Metropolitan Opera, so they had this big cattle call audition, and they wanted to see how we could work with the puppet. And the puppet was a little heavy. It was a 3-year-old kid, 3 puppeteers on the puppet, and the torso had to be held pretty much hovering in space. Like there was a handle on the back of the puppet, and there was someone doing the head, which was pulling up, and someone doing the feet, pulling down. And it was Bone Raku style puppetry, but we weren't on a tabletop. We were actually on the floor. So the person doing the feet is actually scooting and just doing a duck walk the entire time. So anyway, the day before that, I was at work, and I came into a room just to say hi to my friend for a moment, placed my hand on the doorway. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Oh, boy! And someone on the other side opened the door, which completely crushed 2 of my middle finger and my ring finger.
Oh, gosh.
Just short of fracturing it.
On your puppeteering hand?
It was on my right hand.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I was completely bandaged up on that side. And I still did the audition, but I was doing something that would have taken the strength of one hand, just trying so hard to hold on with just my thumb and index finger. Yeah. so painful.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. So like
That
whenever I
sounds
think of
awful.
that audition, I just see this huge jumbo bandage, right next to the puppet's head.
Well, thank you for telling me your injury, and thank you for visiting the Injury Corner.
Thank you for having me.
Puppet is gone for anyone.
Now back with Bruce Lanoil. So you went to Cal State. Is that correct?
That was a default. My
default?
family. Yeah, what happened was my family wasn't into college. My dad, I think he went for 2 years. My mom didn't even consider it because women would just get married.
Yeah, I think it was just that time, right? I mean, that was kind of.
But it was a family too. I mean, I know a lot of families, and a lot of kids in my they were going here and there and there and here, and it was like, and then I was more interested in the activities and stuff, so I ended up with a B average, which is great. But for me, if I didn't get an A, it was a failure, So I was competing against a lot of kids, but then my family, wanted to go back to the East Coast, and we got a house in Long Island, and so. I only applied to one college, Cal State Northridge, but I deferred it, and I went to Nassau Community College on Long Island, and it just, we had to stay together. We were hoping things would get better, but that juice of New York was fantastic for me. I really loved it there. And there was a crazy drama department, so we did all kinds of things. We did burlesque shows, so we did a lot of vaudeville, and
Wow.
that was really fun, and some musicals and stuff. I found some great running mates, and we had some good times. Worked for a catering company. I was a waiter for catering companies a lot in my life. That was the first time. And that was cool.
That's a very logical and good way for somebody that is an actor or aspiring to be an actor. That's a really great thing for them to try to do, because the work is when you need it. You can do it anytime, right?
It's the classic work for an actor, and you make good money, and I like the fact that you go someplace, you create the party, and then you had to break down the party, and so that was very much like film. You go someplace and you make something out of nothing. You make magic, and then the magic was gone. And so I love that. I love that feeling of there was a million things to do, but you always do it, and then you do it again the next day. So that kind of energy was like, yeah, this is great. But the time came, it didn't work out, and my dad work again was going to go back, and my mom was unhappy because she had to leave her real estate business. And so there was sacrifices made to try to keep it, and so we went back, and I had really no choice but the one college that I actually put in on, and I said, okay, it's a default thing, but I was going to stay to go to film school or do something, in New York, because I thought I'm going to be on Broadway. I mean, this is kind of like my destiny, because when I was on stage, there was a feeling of being on a stage, and the whole the smell, the ghost light, looking out into the audience. Oh boy, and then you're singing a song, and I'm not a singer, but I'm a character singer. I'm good enough.
You can sell it.
Yeah,
I can sell it.
We did cabaret in high school, and I was Herr Schultz, and he was a doomed character,
Yeah.
and I'm singing out into the darkness, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm playing this old man, and funny thing. I made the Nazi flag. I felt like I had to do that. That was something that I got a calling for, because I went to a camp, a Jewish
Like a summer camp?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
was
yeah. And it was. I became aware of the Holocaust, and we understood, the shoulders we were standing on, and I felt that all my life. I mean, I don't know about you, past lives, and I had dreams. I had dreams all the time as a kid. And I didn't understand a lot of them. And now, as I'm older, I realize I had dreams of almost the first 30 years of my life. Sets, and why aren't you, get on the set? I'm not prepared. And it was our lives. And I'm going, what does this mean? Why am I always late to my own life? It was so weird. And it all came clear to me. In fact, I even went so far as to, when I was juggling with my friend in Paris, we did a show in Pigalle, in the red light district. Anyway, I went off on my own, and I went to Dachau in Munich, and I went to the camps, because I just had to go. I just felt like a calling. I almost felt like somehow I'm carrying, the spirit of others. And it was a responsibility. And I was there, and we were looking, and they let you, wander through. But the biggest thing that strikes you is this pile of shoes, men, women's, children's shoes. And you just can't believe it. Gosh, I'm sorry we took it here, but that was.
No, that's okay, because this is just a conversation. But I'm gonna try to get us on some sort of track, and I'm going to say this question that I have prepared earlier.
Okay.
What brought you to puppetry?
Puppetry. Well, I embraced clownery, and I embraced commedia dell'arte in college. That's where I met my wife. First of all, first time we met each other, we were laying on the floor, and the teacher said, "Okay, we're gonna do whale sounds." And so she puts on. So we're all kind of doing that, and I hear a real cute whale. I was like, "Whoa, that's a cute sound." And then she's laying in another aisle there, and we did a scene from Tammy of the Shrew, and she played Kate. So I was like, well, I am Petruchio. I've been, I was Petruchio in high school. So, So I pick her up and it's like, yeah, she's wow. And so that's when we started, courting. And by going back to, it's funny how your choices in life, I was going to stay in New York and pursue all of that wonderful energy.
It seemed like you're on a great path to be an actor.
I had to be with my family to the end game of that. And then just that choice of going to the default college, that's where everything happened. So there was a thing on the bulletin board, in the green room of college, and it was a hand. It was just a hand, picture of a hand, and it was Sid and Marty Krofft looking for puppets. And there are a number of puppeteers who started there: Alan Troutman, Terry Hardin. Anyway,
when was this?
This was 1981.
1981, and they were doing a workshop.
They were doing like a reboot of their business. They had the Puff and Stuff and all those amazing things, which I watched and I went, wow. I mean, it's fun. But Lidsville, who was the villain in Lidsville?
I can't even picture.
Oh, it was hello there. It was not.
Oh, Paul Lynde.
No, it wasn't Paul Lynde. It was the other guy.
The other one. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I can't think who it is.
Oh, you'll fix this later, right? But anyway, I was on a match game with him. We matched for $5,000. Laurie and I, when we were struggling as actors, we would do the game show run-throughs.
Charles Nelson Riley?
Yes, yes.
Oh, is that it?
Yes.
Wow.
And I never touched a puppet, Matt, except for that little puppet I made in third grade. So I didn't even do a lip sync. So, I get there and they go, okay. So I go to this giant building and it was a labyrinth and you had to go to different stations. And if you were let go, you went this door or you went that door to the next thing. So, first thing is, hi, my name is Bob, So, okay, what is it? Hi, my name. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I can do this, I could do anything. I had a superpower, which was my skills. I really could trust my body.
And you were very comfortable with that.
I was in really great shape because I was juggling in Europe, and I knew my space. I knew how I felt in space. So all of those things that you hope to have when you get into a puppet, I was already there. I had no monitor experience, nothing like that. So they were
looking for that. Were they looking for people?
Oh, they were looking for people who were ready to go because they had a whole slate of stuff that they wanted to do. I didn't know this. So Tony Urbano, the great puppet master, who by the way was asked by Jim Henson to join the Muppets. And he said, no, I have my own things I want to do. Thank you very much, Jim. I mean, he could have been Frank Oz. In some respects, he was that talented and that amazing. Wow. His marionettes were unbelievable, and he taught me just about everything about puppets. So I wasn't chosen yet, so they gave me a puppet with no face, and they go, "Okay, get up there," and they put me in front of the camera, and I'm thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna do an improv." It's like, "Friends, please. I have no face. Please send me and I did this whole evangelistic thing, and I'm just, and the cameraman's laughing, and Tony's coming by giving a tour. He happened to be with Oral Roberts and company, and his bodyguard Rosie Greer from the Rams, and they were all there, and they came by just to say, "This is what we're doing." And Tony just turns white, and I'm doing this evangelistic bit.
In front of Oral Roberts.
In front of Oral Roberts, their biggest client that moment. He was one of them, and Oral's just like, he starts laughing, and then Rosie starts laughing, and then Tony realizes this guy is nuts, But my lip sync was good, and the concept was good, and so I kept going through the labyrinth, and I got into the workshop. So I was one of 16 people who were allowed to meet June Foray and Harvey Lembeck Jr. And all of these people, they were teaching us masterclass on how to, do this and get us ready for the slate of stuff they had. So the first job I got with, from this group was an Oral Roberts show. It was a series called The Fudge Family. And I was Jimmy Fudge. And it was a little boy puppet with beady black eyes that looked demonic. It was like a really bad choice. And luckily I had some experience before then? No, not really. No. So I was flailing about, Alan Trump played the dog. We had a really great cast, but the culmination of the show was Jimmy's Fudge. I was stuffed in a hollow tree, and it was really rough. And I had I had a fishing rod. It was a pond, okay? And then out of the bushes, out of the forest, would come Oral Roberts in a 3-piece suit. And I'd say, Mr. Roberts, why did my mom die? He goes, I'm glad you asked me that, Jimmy. And he'd go into his oration, which was the point of the show. And sometimes it was 30, 40 minutes, and I'm holding the puppet, and Jimmy's just dying. I was shaking. I didn't know anything from anything.
And they didn't stop. There was no, we're not stopping.
Are you going to stop Oral Roberts when he was on a roll?
Probably not. Yeah,
God couldn't. Well, maybe. I don't know. that was up to them. But, man, it was so we did 3 of them. And then the 4th show, there were some letters that came in, only a couple of them. And one lady said, these are the false images of God. And they got freaked out. So we're in the middle of shooting, and they say, all right, nope, this is over. You all go home. So we all went up to Greg Williams' house, where we said, what the heck was that? And I think somebody passed around a joint and we said, what happened? What just happened? So the first job was the Fudge Family going up in flames. I thought, this is how it's going to be? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
During that decade where I wasn't sure I wanted to be a puppeteer, I worked with the Peppercorn Players, which is Dave Pavalonis, a great, great artist. He could take a block of foam, and he had characters in his head, and he'd find them. And they were beautiful. And I played characters like Beezer, a little boy puppet. And that really was perfect for me, because he was just a ball of energy. And Mrs. Fingal, who had this incredible bouffant that went up, 3 tiers. And she was a piano teacher. And I had a ball with that, long fingernails. She was la, 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 la. And we did this for the Methodist Church. And so we went to St. Louis, and we did all of these things for Concordia Productions, and that really cut my teeth on character and knowing how to do this.
Are you working with monitors, or is it?
Yes.
You are.
That's where I started learning how. I mean, it was kind of second nature. The flip monitors kind of threw me, but once you get once your brain can acclimate, it's like jet lag. You can do this again. This physically, because of sports and because of how puppeteering was a perfect fit for me, as far as I'm hiding. I'm doing anything up here didn't count. I remember you in a podcast saying, when you audition, you have to let it go emotionally. You can't care that much. And that's when you usually get it. With puppeteering, it was like, this is a side thing. It's not something I really want to do. So when I do it, it was pure joy, because it was so silly and so ridiculous and so challenging. I loved it. And what
you didn't put that kind of pressure on yourself.
No, but I did have pressure.
It needed to be something.
But when I got into union work with Tony Urbano, I was part of McDonald Land. I was a McNugget. And we did, I don't know, he did 30, 40, 50 spots just with the McNuggets alone. But the puppets that he made, but being a McNugget and just little tracker puppets.
I remember those,
Oh,
yeah.
man, it was so much fun.
That must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but you don't make a mistake, But before that, the first job I did for my SAG card was United Air Express had packages. And I was really brand spanking new. I think it was just after the Fudge Family going, I don't know if I can do this. But we all got cast, and I was an envelope. And so they put me in this, not medicine cabinet, file cabinet. And they maquetted me in. And like in horror movies with the nail goes, it's just inches away from my eyes.
Gosh,
and I got really claustrophobic and scared, because this was not what I signed up for. And so I had one line, a personal chauffeur, and I wrote it down. All of a sudden, I just flop sweat, and all I had to do was say my line when it came up, and I missed it the first time, and I missed it the second time. But luckily, my puppet, because Tony was going, "What are you doing?" what are you doing? You'll never work again. And it was. I was like, I know, I can't. But the puppet would go. It would make a face because it was so pliable, and he'd make a. And the whole crew cracked up and loved the puppet because he was doing his best. And when I got it, everybody cheered and stuff. And the power of puppets, Matt, it was like the campaign, they did 5 or 6, was so successful for United Air Express. They weren't ready for the business influx because people said, great, I'll try it. This was before FedEx. They could have been bigger than big. But because they got so much business, they closed down before they even started.
No.
They weren't ready.
Even do it.
And so it was like, puppets are powerful. And so the McNugget stuff, Lori and I are living in a small apartment. You know how those little mailboxes, you have a little key that barely works and it rattles anyway? We came home one day and it's like bent, you know, and it's like, somebody broke our mailbox. I said, okay, I'm going to get the mail. And I couldn't get the key, and I finally opened the thing. And out from the little tiny mailbox comes, I think, 25, 30 checks. And we go upstairs, and we start opening Class A commercials and going, oh, my God. And it was like, this is it. This is something I got to do, you know. So with the Muppets, with the puppets, what happened was...
But How did Brian Henson see you, and how did he cast you?
Oh, before that, it was Jim came west, and he was going to do, I think, dinosaurs and a 3D movie. And so there were interviews, and I was lucky enough to interview with Jane Henson at the Hotel Normand, and she was seated like the Queen Mother in a beautiful lighted, nook, and she was there. When I went to Europe, I had this baby puppet made by my friend Wayne Katz, and it was a demonic baby. I wanted it that way, but the mouth was, it was not pliable. But I did some amazing street theater with this baby, and I didn't have any other puppet, so I brought this baby puppet to Jane. And I met her. She was so beautiful and cordial. And I did my did all the bits and stuff. And she was delighted. She goes, your lip sync is. I said, I know it's not a. I was apologizing already. And she goes, okay, well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I thought, all right, at least I met Jane Henson, and I'll go on with my life. And so the auditions for our dinosaurs came up. No, the 3D movie came up, and I somehow got a call. And I was one of the soldiers.
Did they shoot that in L.A. or was that shot in...
They shot it in L.A., yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you were one of the soldiers.
Cameras. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God, Matt. You couldn't believe it, because every time they turned those things on, it felt like $100,000, $200,000. Yeah. So it was like, you couldn't mess up. And there was Jim, like Moses. It was like, that's Jim. I didn't know Jim. I didn't even know. I liked the Muppets, but I cut my teeth on Sesame Street. In high school, I would even be late to class. Because when they were doing those early sketches and they were laughing, the pie guy, and the pies, and the sketches with the soup and everything, Bert and Ernie, and it was crackling. It was. I knew it was like, this is a kid's thing. It's not a kid. These guys are. It was like the Looney Tune cartoons. They weren't for kids. They were 3 martinis in, and they were going, let's do this. And those
there to make
characters.
You laugh.
I was a Mad Magazine guy. I was, everything was set up for me to, I was ready for the adult stage. So that's what I love. The Muppets were really good, but they felt a little too wholesome to me. I didn't really get the point of them as much as I did when I got the call to start working with everybody there. But the call came for dinosaurs. But before it came for dinosaurs, I got to tell you the story. I'm playing right field, and we're winning 8-0. I played a lot of softball because I still love baseball. So it was an easy game, and this fly ball comes on out, and I go, okay, I got this. And I thought, I'm going to have to stretch for this. I didn't run fast enough. So I reach out the glove hand, right, and I somehow kind of dig it into the ground, and then I roll over on my yes. And I flip over and I turn and I take the glove off and I watch my wrist and the bones just go, and I went, oh, and I just learned the breath of fire, that meditative breath. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I learned it just, the week before, but I realized I started doing it because I was going into shock. My wrist was destroyed. And I panicked, and then they got me to the hospital, and Dr. Sisto, amazing doctor, I'm laying there, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, this is before the call came, but I'm laying there, and he goes, listen, if you let me, I can reset the bones with my hand, or else we could put pins in and you can go to surgery. But if you let me, I can do this. And I said, okay, go for it. I mean, I'm in pain. It's like unbelievable. So he just
Whatever you got to do.
Yeah. So I feel it. He's He's just going, he knows his stuff. And he was like, and then they lock me up in an L cast, okay, up to here. And I'm just miserable. It's like, oh man, all the puppet jobs I would get. So ring, ring. Hi, Bruce, do you want to come to the workshop for dinosaurs? I said, yeah, you sure do.
Yes, I do.
So it's like, I have
You didn't
nothing
say,
to lose.
by the way, I have a cast on.
No, what was the point of that? I'm going to go, and if they're going to kick me out because I can't.
Yeah, at least
my
you're
right
there.
hand, I had my right hand.
You had your right hand, which is
but I was,
important.
Yeah, so that audition, oh my
Wait,
God.
you showed up in a cast, your whole
cast.
arm on your left arm.
With all the puppeteers, everybody was there. I mean, it was the big deal. And it was Gladiator. Every day there was a list. You're gone. So I'm working my ass off. I'm focused, and I'm hoping for the best. And I kept making the cut. Boom, boom, boom. So we get to the meat and potatoes of all this. We get there that day. They go, okay, we're going to do something a little different here. This is kind of what the show's all about. And lined up were the Ninja Turtle heads. And they put me in front of the big one, which was the control system, and Michelangelo's head. And I'm looking at this thing going, and you just go, it was that lightning bolt of, this is my destiny. I mean,
You weren't fearful? You didn't think, I don't know what the heck this is?
I was just calculating. I was like, okay, how can I make this work? And so I put my hand into the Waldo. I was like, oh yeah, this feels like, I don't know. I was like, I was flying an airplane. I was a jet pilot. This is the coolest thing I could ever think of. A puppet that's remote control.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I put my hand in, and I can't. I mean, I have my left hand, and I go, excuse me. And so I go to the restroom, and I get a scissors, and I start cutting away the cast.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, because the thing. It was, over
You want
the
to get
finger.
just your hand in.
I've got to get the hand in there, and it was 2 weeks out before it was coming off. But there's no way. I got to get my fingers working. I gotta feel this thing. So I cut the cast away, and I get into Michelangelo, and I just start going, and then the energy transference of animatronics was my destiny. It's what I love the most, because somehow I'm supposed to do that. And so I just start flying. I'm just having a ball. And everything and all the fears and everything just melted away. The joy of that, I didn't even care about what happened in the workshop. I just know that I love this so much, and could they ever give me an opportunity to do this? And so I get home, and I think I get the cast off, and then I haven't heard yet. And I think Kevin Carlson gave me a call, and he goes, I didn't get it, but I think they might give you a call. I said, you think? I don't think so. And then Brian gets on the phone. Lori goes, it's Brian. I'm sitting on the bed, and he goes, you got to work on your lip sync. I said, well, this is the kiss off.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have you in for a Unisaur. I got it. I'm in the show.
Wow.
I get to go do this. I'm not one of the family members. I'm not anything. I'm whatever he wants me to. Anything, And I get to that room. I don't know if you saw some of the footage of the rehearsal, and where everybody's trying on the suits, and the heads are there, and then off to the races we go. It was unbelievable. And then I'm doing good, and things are going well. And then Michelin Sisty walks in, and it's just like, he changed my life. He had a fedora hat, came right off of Broadway. I mean, it's just like, wow, everybody.
Nobody's cooler than Meech.
Oh my God. And we're laughing, we're having a great time. And then, Brian says, I'd like you to do, Charlene, What? Yeah.
He says this to you.
I think, yeah, I'm going to upgrade you. You can still do the Unisaurs. Also I was going to be inside the suit too.
So tell me, what are the Unisaurs? Are those the puppet versions, or
those are the suit characters that played all of the ancillatory, the extra characters.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. So they could dress them up and look like different characters. Okay.
There was Ed and Gus and Sourpuss.
And were you going to do the facial manipulation, or
I was going to do the facial manipulation, but because I don't know what it was, I was in one of the characters, the blue character, for a little while. It's actually a shot of me wearing a full suit with a tail, and I'm at the big one doing Charlene, and then I went back to do the Mr. Pullman character. Early on I did a couple of the scenes. In fact, People magazine came and they shot some stuff, and it's me in the Unisaur, and because my nose, you can see, because it was in the neck, it was like this over your face. You couldn't breathe. Other guys, you had to open the head, and at least you could see a little bit. Here, you couldn't see at all. So you see my nose as the Adam's apple of the character.
Oh, that's funny.
And there's me and Brian in a full 2-page picture of dinosaurs. It's coming. It's the next big thing. And we opened, I think, 6th. That was our peak top 10 when the show premiered. But oh my God,
what a great show! And you had a great experience on that show.
Beyond great. Everything. It kind of sets you up for disappointment because it was the everything. They needed everything from every one of us, and everything that I ever did in my life, I did for and with the show, and everything that happened that set up my life with my wife and my family also happened. The birth of my son, all of these things. And they had a softball team, and you played all the other TV shows. We played Coach,
that's cool.
and they all kicked their ass because they had these giant guys, And I ended up being the high arc pitcher. So between takes, I would be practicing pitching, in the alleyway, if not playing hacky sack. We were fantastic at hacky sack. Mac Wilson was our mentor. He was our mentor with Puppeteers. Still the greatest animatronic guy ever. Man, and it was just so much. It was so much fun. We were there every single hour of our lives.
I do want to talk to you more about this, this remote puppetry that you're so good at. But before I do, I have a message to play for you that somebody sent in. So
What?
take a listen to this.
No way.
I remember the very first day I met little Bruce Lanoil. He was a cuddly, wuddly little fellow, and he had such a bright smile on his face. Little did I know that he would become a nightmare. But we all dealt with it. We love him anyway.
My dad.
I have a little quick memory, if you're looking for one.
Yeah.
Sure, Bill.
One of my favorite things to do with Bruce Lanoil is to try and get food to come out of his nose
Bastard.
because I've made him laugh so hard.
Oh, my
He
God.
can tell you more about that. But Bruce and I come from the same water, you might say.
Willingboro.
We're both from Willingboro, New Jersey. We realized that when we met on Dinosaurs 30 years ago. Bruce, can you believe it? It's been that long.
Nope.
And we've been friends ever since. I couldn't ask for a better daughter.
Thank you, Daddy.
You were my first daughter and only daughter. Dinosaurs, of course.
God bless.
And I love you to death. Oh, and if you're looking for any great metaphors or analogies, Bruce is your go-to. Any topic. You name it, he's got one. Love you, buddy.
Love you.
And I'll see you soon.
And we have, boy, a lifetime.
Bill Beretta.
Bill Beretta. My God. I mean, he never really touched puppets, And then
I know.
all of us who trained for 10, 15 years, he just leapfrogged because he was supposed to. And talk about somebody who was destined to do what we do and love. I mean, he is just he's the mayor. I mean, he's next to you. I mean, Bill Beretta is he's the fire, he's the torch, he's the
Well,
earth.
I do want to go back. I don't want to let it go. He did say food through the nose.
All right, so we're at his house.
Tell me what happened.
And we're eating a salad. I don't know why we're eating a salad, and Bill is evil in the fact that he would wait until he could do something with what you're doing. So I'm eating carrots, and I don't know what it was. He just went big zoo. I went, and I spit upward, and he was renting this house, and there was a chandelier, and it was really high up there, and I somehow landed carrots all over the glass chandelier, and they were just dripping. I don't know if they ever got them off, but. And I think it came out of my nose. You ever did that? It wasn't a whole carrot.
Right,
but it was
of course
a
not.
sliver.
Chewed carrot.
It's not a good feeling when a sliver of carrot is shot out your nose.
No.
And it was just, it became a legendary thing because, boy, it was mean, but incredibly funny. But isn't that like the hallmark of what we do? I mean, what other jobs you're sitting there, aerospace, and nobody goes, bah, 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 bah. You can't because,
I know.
planes will crash and rockets will burn, and you can't.
You're right. No, you can't do that. We are in a profession where we really do laugh a great deal, a lot, all the time, on screen and off screen, and everywhere in between. We'll go to dinner, we'll laugh. We'll be at lunch, we'll laugh. It is part of our job, really. I mean, most of the time is to be like, up and happy and
a puppet show. It doesn't exist without an audience. It's a live event. It's we of course we record it and we hope for the best that it has that crackling feeling. I mean, Dinosaurs Off the Floor was unbelievable, Matt. I mean, we were all in this in the mode. I mean, we were flying with Charlene, Misha, and I. He taught me everything I needed to know about show business and getting takes and getting it in one. We could do a show in 4 days. We would save them like $150,000. They come to us and say, listen, we're really short this week or something. Can you do this short show? And we go, I guess so. We'll try it. Misha says, I got this. We'll do this. Just follow my lead. So we were there for each other. It was
wow.
It was such a well-oiled machine. And we were going to do a feature, and it was such a sad thing because we had 6 weeks. We were going to do a dinosaurs feature between I think the second to last season or the last season, and they just said no, we're not ready, and we were so ready, and afterwards we wanted to go onward and do more together because we were the most well-oiled team. We were the championship team. We could do anything because they were the greatest crew and the greatest shop in the world, the Jim Henson Creature Shop, all over the world.
Remarkable stuff,
the
right?
greatest artists and the greatest human beings, the most giving, the most sacrificing, the most just beautiful human beings that made the most beautiful creatures. That I mean, sports cars, because I feel like we're race car drivers, especially animatronics. When you get a head that is just well oiled and everything works, and everything you touch, every movement your hand makes, which you're in Kermit, everything counts in Kermit, I have a small hand, and I've always been, chasing all the puppets that are made because they really come down from Jim's image. The guys had big hands, and they were tall men. And being little, it's really hard. It was in The Cat in the Hat. It was not made for me. It ate me up alive. It was down here. And it was a beautiful puppet, and nobody wanted to change it. But if I had any bend in my elbow at all, it looked like he had scoliosis. I had to work so hard to keep him upright that it took all my energy.
Now I'm thinking about it, and I feel like I've heard this that puppet was so long, just very long, that it was very difficult for anybody to perform.
It was, and the arms were extra long. They went for this cartoony thing.
I'm picturing it.
So you have this big U's. You have and so I know that they wanted me to open up the arms, but even with an assistant, it was impossible because you couldn't stay in the frame. So there was so much going on. And there was beautiful eyebrows, and mostly I'm talking to camera, and it was really hard. I think Marty did a really lovely job the second season. Where that was him. He had the body and he had the experience.
Oh yeah.
So the manipulation was better for that puppet. I think Raleigh made that puppet, and it's fantastic. They were gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All those puppets are so. They really look like Dr. Seuss characters. I mean, they've done such a good job with those.
Exactly. Did you audition? I didn't even know that there was a search for the cat until I was on Muppets Tonight, and then Kevin said, you and Drew go audition. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I think I was just doing Sesame stuff.
because they looked at they looked and looked and looked, and so it was just weeks after that I just left Muppets Tonight and I went to New York, which was overwhelming. It was a lot.
I'm sure. Back with Bruce in a minute, but right now it is time to ask a puppeteer about not puppets.
Ask a puppeteer about not puppets.
On today's Ask a Puppeteer About Not Puppets, we've got a question for Noel MacNeal about not puppets. Noel MacNeal, what record would you break to be in the Guinness Book of World Records?
I would say, proving this, blathering, just talking.
Just talking?
Just talking. I think talking, because that seems to be my strength. Just talk and all these little ridiculous stories I have. Ridiculous amount of trivia. I told you about Paul Winchell inventing the artificial heart.
That's true. Yeah.
So
That's right, yeah.
There's that. So I think just talking, maybe. I could be a great filibuster.
Ask the puppeteer about not puppets.
Back to the show. We are back with Bruce Lanoil. Yeah, well, let's back up for a second and talk about Muppets Tonight.
Oh, Muppets Tonight. Again, I had to check myself because I was in Dinosaurs. I mean, I thought as an actor, because I tried to be for a whole decade. I really wanted to be an actor. I couldn't get an agent. I had casting workshops. I met my greatest claim to fame was I was a waiter on General Hospital. One time the actor used my name. And I learned to dress a bottle like in a little tuxedo with a with a napkin, and that was like, hey, at least I learned a skill that I can use in my life. Hopefully, if I can get a nice restaurant job, because nothing's going to happen with this acting career. But I always thought, you get to like guest star level, and then if you play a lead, and you get an agent, and it's like, well, you can't go back down. Again, I was taught. You go here and here, because CEO does not become goes to the mailroom, but in puppeteering you do.
You can, yeah. I think
metaphorically.
It depends. Yeah, you can, because it just depends. And here's the thing: is even on Sesame Street, we do principal characters, and then we'll also assist people. And even with the Muppets, we do that too, right? We'll do a character, and then we'll go assist somebody. We'll right hand for somebody.
Right. And if you get caught up in the fact that you think I really deserve, or I think that I'm better than. You can lose yourself, and you can lose the fact of what you're doing, and you're not in the moment, and you're doing yourself such a disservice, but you don't understand that. And I had to learn that. It had to be weaned out of me, because this last section of my life, for the last 10 years has really been right-handing. And I embrace the honor and the joy of being a part of one of the greatest ensembles puppeteering in the history of the world.
Well, and that's what you said right there is ensemble, and that's
Ensemble.
Everybody counts. Everybody matters. Everybody is part of this group that makes this thing happen.
Man.
And we can't do it without all of us working together toward that goal.
Oh, I was on Muppets Tonight, and it was still the time of Jerry, and it was still the time of Frank. And I right-handed for Frank and Jerry. I got a little taste of Sesame Street, I think I did the count once for him on a side thing, and then I did a lion hand with Frank. Frank was tough, man. I mean, I don't know your experiences, but Frank also was the most embracing, loving man, When I was at the reading of when they were deciding which script to do, I mean, he had me at his reading at the Disney lot and stuff, and he says, of course, Bruce, you're family. And when somebody says that to you like that, you just go, I'll do anything for them up. I'll do, thank you. Because that's what I wanted is safe harbor, acceptance, and, I'll do any job that's needed because I am part of something bigger than myself that, wow, I'm blessed and lucky to have. And that's what Brian gave me, by letting me become a part of the family and then introducing me to Muppets. You know?
And through that show, Dinosaurs, was your gateway into this whole new world of puppetry that was just on the horizon. I mean, I know you did films like Dr. Dolittle and Adventures of Pinocchio and Jack Frost, Flintstones, Viva Rock Vegas, and The Country Bears. And in those movies, in those films, you were doing this system. Was this the HDPS digital puppetry system, or was this a precursor?
This was the big one. This was the system that they used. I think in Jim's day, and it was developed more by the creature shops to do all the animatronic work. It was the bridge between the CGI. And so we had this decade, where we got to do movies. Because Brian asked me at one of the parties, he says, so what do you want to do? I mean, Brian, the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world, said, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
And it was like, God, man. So I said, I'm going to do movies. And he goes, why? They're hard, and you can, and the series, you can get into the characters more. And I said, I think it's because of that. It's because it's impossibly hard, and it's always fresh. And I think movies just last longer because, in my mind, that's what kicked me off, was movies.
Something that you did get to do, I want you to talk about, Henson has this system.
HDPS
system.
Unbelievable. It was just we were so far ahead of the curve too. The guys were just geniuses, just that created this system. Brian put a ton of money into it, and it was sort of magical. It was like only a handful of us were doing it. This was my astronaut dream, where I was doing something that nobody else in the world was doing, and honored to do so. Again, the controllers were made for very big hands, but what we can do with those controls is that you can pad it so you can make sure your hand fit really well. This is something that people don't talk about, is that if a puppet isn't built around you and it doesn't feel right, that's something else that comes up or it takes your attention. And those 1-2 beats are gone forever, and you miss something and you blow a take, suddenly everything can tumble down. It's a house of cards, puppet shows.
It really is, yeah.
It's so much work, and you don't have the time. It takes so much money and effort to get to the point, to get on camera and get it. And then, of course, if the film crews are new, you got to educate them. The time it takes, it's so exhausting. Usually at the end, that everybody's great friends and we didn't know the puppets. But if they had a bad puppet experience or one that's subpar, where people don't know that you're working together, and God knows camera does not want you to have any input on camera. We're the only actors and performers that say, could you move the camera for me? Can you imagine, even Marlon Brando doesn't go, I need the camera close. Nobody was like, no, Marlon, you do your job, we'll do ours. There's a line.
We did kind of have sort of that experience on the 2011 Muppets film. It was a little bit of a struggle, but it was a little bit of a learning curve for them and for us, to try to figure out how we work together, how we are watching literally everything that's going on camera.
Exactly.
Every frame we are watching, and we can see everything.
And in the movies, you only have limited time on a set because you're on location. And, the shorthand that you need to have a puppet crew that is just stellar. And you've been blessed with the people who have done it for all their lives and do it in such a way where you don't have to say anything, the adjustments are made and you can reach for the stars and do even more amazing things because I think we can do it. Let's try it,
But and we have that remarkably on Sesame Street. Our crew, some of whom have been there since day one, and some of them have been there since, for quite a number of years, are just so good at what they do from every department, all the way from top to bottom. They really are amazing.
If you haven't experienced that, and it's always a struggle. So that the freelance puppeteers, when you're not with the groups that try to get the same people all the time, and you're coming in with one puppet for one project, it's so hard. I mean, I think I did early on the new Lassie, and I was a talking mitt, a baseball mitt, and they stuck me all over the place, but they wouldn't give me a monitor. And I'm going, guys, please, I just need to see what Lassie's doing and whoever the Jimmy is that's with Lassie, and I couldn't react properly because they were even talking, we're going to spin off this mitt for a series. Really? I would know because I can't see it anyway.
But you couldn't see. I mean, and
They
you
wouldn't let
probably
me
didn't have
see.
anybody there for you to advocate.
They
for you,
really
would you?
weren't
I mean,
interested in my expertise and stuff. And so again, you come in with, I have this, I'm this person, and then with puppets, you're always, not always, but you're knocked down to size, and you're understanding that everybody doesn't understand. It's still very kind of do your magic and don't talk to us if you don't need to.
Is there a different kind of mentality in the film industry, particularly when it comes to a puppeteer? I feel like there have been some experiences I've heard about where film puppeteers are seen to be just, you're a cable puller and you pull this cable and that is your job, and then and that's it. And
Well, yeah, because a lot of the
different.
shops, of course, a lot of the shops that did the great creature movies that we all love, and the Aliens and all these, these amazing movies, they come from a different mentality. Not everybody is a trained either actor or puppeteer. They're great shop technicians or they're new shop technicians, and they don't get paid a lot, for the build perhaps, because again, it's all budgets. And so when they get to set, they get to be the actors. And sometimes, we've had a lot of give and take with stunt contracts and things that are mislabeled and not understood of what we do. We're SAG actors, or we're union actors. And when you're not considered that, or it's just a below the line type of thing, or we'll have a prop guy move it, you've always had, there's that gray area, and the creatures are not, they're featured for their scenes, but the movie's about the story and the actors and the director.
These actors,
And the cinematographer and everybody
I feel
else.
like sometimes we're not seen as actors.
Nope.
I think it's a little bit different when you come with the pedigree of Sesame Street or the Muppets. I mean, those are the top. That's the top, and it's a struggle, I think, for other people, right?
But you can impact. I had a number of situations where I was in Dr. Dolittle. Our creatures were really good, but we were, again, there were real animals. We had a real tiger on the set. You had to really dance around it. There was one scene where we were all like hidden in our puppet places, and they let the tiger walk through, which I don't know if that was probably or ever happen again. It was like, and if you get near a cage, say I'm talking about 50 feet, the tiger can just like shoot their urine at you and just say, "Get away!" And so you have to know exactly where the tiger is anytime you walk into the room. Mm-hmm. So the creatures were having hit and miss, situations, and I was working. Marion from the Creature Shop, she made this beautiful guinea pig, and I was that was my character that I was prepping, And so when my first scene with Eddie Murphy was on a car. So we're towing the car, and I'm in the back of the rig, and my face is I have the controls, and I'm leaning down. The road is basically 3 feet from my face, and I'm looking up, and I'm working the thing. It's mounted to the roof of the car, and Eddie's driving, and he's just staring at me. And Eddie was not that engaged. He was like kind of like not thrilled about how things were. We had rat puppets. He didn't like rats, and he was like, "Nah, I don't want to." And it was just like. And we were not like didn't hit our, so I'm there and I'm ready. I mean, all I did was prep this thing, and I had lines, and I just start ad-libbing, and Alan was there with me, and the director was here, and we're all leaning forward, and they're all leaning, and we're looking at Eddie, and we're just driving back and forth doing the scene, and I just started, I had a good improv day, and we had, it was really fun.
Do you feel like you made a connection with him that day?
The first AD says, I got to tell you, you saved the shop's butt, because we were going to let you guys go. It was that big, and it was. It was.
Who
it
knew
was a
that
moment,
it was so high stakes?
It was a moment,
Yeah.
Jack Frost wasn't green lit, and I had this amazing head that the Creature Shop built. The guys are amazing, and so the heads of the Creature Shop said, we have to do something. Let's take this head and let's go to Warner Brothers, the executive suites, and set it up and go for a Hail Mary. So they put it on a shelf, and I'm facing the head, which I was having a ball on. It didn't matter. They let Sam Raimi go, just days before, which was so sad. Yeah, and he was going to be the director, but we ended up with Troy Miller, wonderful guy, first-time director. But it wasn't green lit yet. So I went there and I just sang Christmas carols and I cut up. And I didn't, everybody who was walking in, it was everybody, anybody in Warner Brothers behind me. And we just kind of just had a laugh fest, you know?
Playing.
Yeah, that's it, just playing. And that did it, that moment. It's those moments of when you pour yourself into hit or miss, you know? Brian always loved something about me which always irked me. It's when I was lost and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was flailing, and then the puppet was I would never stop. I mean, the puppet was, you know, when the puppet has its own life, and we need to get out of its way. It's a flow of energy. It's energy flow, and the creature, the beautiful creation, will it's like a divining stick. It will find water. It will find gold. But you got to be quiet and listen as you're doing all the machinations and the things that we do. And that's when it starts to fly. Sometimes it takes modern rehearsal. Sometimes it takes a tweaking of the puppet or the chemistry between the people. You know, it doesn't always happen. And you think it's a turn on and turn off switch, and it's not.
It's not, right?
But if you're in the right place at the right time, and you have something that you love, you need to just let your heart lead rather than your head, and you get out of your own way, and it's there. The emotions will flow, and the truth will come out of the puppet. Puppets really can't lie, and when you do something that's not right, it's just not right.
You can tell.
Yeah, everybody can tell, you know?
Yeah.
That's not so-and-so, or that's not who we, you know, because everybody has them in their heart. And the crews that, you know, because the relationships you have with everybody you work with all the time, the crew and everybody, and when Kermit's saying hello, you know, between you and Steve, Kermit, I have a relationship with him. I covet that. I am one of the luckiest people in the world. Kermit knows me and I know Kermit. And that's just truth, and there's nothing that can ever change that.
Yeah,
I have a father and mother, I have a family and 2 beautiful kids, and I have relationships with the Muppets, you know? As long as I live, they'll know who I am.
That's true. That's true. That is insane to think. You are absolutely right, though, because when I am going to a set and Elmo goes, "Oh, hi, Matt. Matt's here, everybody." I'm like, Elmo just said my name?
And you still kind of say that? Yeah. It's delightful because you're a child again, and I think
absolutely.
That's the equalization and the beauty of what we do is it's just we bring out the child. The child can't hide. Everybody's child can't hide, and every star and every giant ego or people think that they're better than this human being. They just go to jelly, and then could you just do this for my kids? Can you do this for my mom? And you're more than willing and happy to cut up with them on a level of just equalization, friendship, and joy.
Yeah. Well, here's one place where I think that we spread a huge amount of joy, and you were part of this, was the Muppets at the Hollywood Bowl. The Muppets take the bowl, and then the Muppets take the O2.
That was
those
rapture.
Live shows. What do you feel? How do you feel?
The energy.
Part of those?
Oh, that was it. I mean, because I wanted, I didn't make it to Broadway. I didn't have that feeling of the energy always coming at us. We got the crew. We got each other. And then you hope the reviews are good, and then people pick things apart. You can take things personally. You can distill the experience. When the experience is great, you want to cherish it. But this was something that was so communal and so needed by everyone. And I invited all my family. And when they came back to say hello, there was this innocent, it was just thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It was a personal thing. It was like, I needed this more than you can know, Yeah. And then we were standing there, and I'm standing next to Paul Williams, and I got the chef on my arm, and the orange lights and the faces, and everybody's singing, and the flow. The flow was like you're cleansed. Everything can be better. The world, even though it's been shaken up like a snow globe and nobody knows where to turn or look.
Yeah.
We all have this moment of just, the lovers, the dreamers, and you and me.
You and you
and
you
thank
and
you.
Everybody.
And everybody. And God, what Jim did, this one fire, that still burns. It's like the eternal flame, at Arlington. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's there for everybody to see. It's like, this won't go out, the Olympic flame.
And we carry that forward for Jim and everything that Jim stood for. We are here to represent that and move on
And Jim made this fire because he wanted to be by it and have wanderers and people who need something to latch onto, something important, something personal, something that'll always be there for them. And these creations are that. And what is better to do? What there's nothing better to do.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Bruce. And this brings me to a part on your bio. At the very end, you say this, and this is kind of what you're talking about here. You said, "We stand upon the shoulders of all creative souls before us that enables every single voice to tell their story, their version of life's unpredictable, magnificent journey, while illuminating all our lives with the magical gift of play." I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, I hope so. I hope people get to feel that and allow themselves, give themselves the inner permission, because it's you can talk yourself out of love and joy, thinking that you're either not worthy or somebody else thinks you're not worthy, or I can't take a chance. I'll just stick with, what I have. But there's always something around the bend. Stay with the flow. Don't jump off the raft. Trust yourself. And I forget. I can't. You telling me these words back. It's like, yeah, right. Remember, when you're lost and you don't feel like you're connective and you're comparing your old self to your new self.
Yeah.
And you're realizing you can't be your old self again. I'm not all those magical skills that I had and all those senses. I wear glasses now. I see the monitor different. It's hard to read a book. And you go, what happened? Well, you're a human being. This is what happens.
Yeah. It's the progress of life.
Yeah, but you have richness and you have worth and you have something that's important. It may not have the reach, and you may not have the reach physically anymore, but you still can try.
Yeah.
God bless.
That's right.
We have Dave Goals, and every day with Dave is a gift and a half.
It really is. I feel like I'm so grateful to have any minute with him. We've spent a lot of time on Zoom, just kind of chatting and give each other a hard time in real life. It's all, of course, very lovable, but it is what we know, Bruce. We know Dave Goals. He's one of our friends. He's a friend.
It's like game over. Thank God. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's
unbelievable.
And he would scoff at our comments about it.
He would. Yeah, he would go, "Oh, stop." And then he'd go, "Okay, give me some more."
Yeah, right.
All right, Bruce, I'm going to ask you some rapid-fire questions.
Woo!
Are you ready?
Ready as ever.
Whatever's on the top of your head.
Captain.
Okay, here we go. What's the hardest part about being a puppeteer?
Not enough takes when you're on a roll and you got this. And then you get it, say, in take 2, and they do 40 more takes, and you go, they'll never see my magic. It just won't happen. It's just so frustrating. I got it. Didn't you see it?
What's the easiest part about being a puppeteer?
You, Bill, the boys, everyone. I mean, the camaraderie and no matter how long it is, it could be a year, and you meet up on a Muppet project and you go, I'm home. I'm home, baby.
I like that. What do you think is your biggest strength as a puppeteer / performer?
I went over this with my wife. I did a little. She says, my wife says it's whimsical and playful, which she wishes I was more at home. But I do come in with an open heart and a sense of play. I may have a little bit too much energy, but I will not come to the table without, some Danish.
You know what? That is true about you, Bruce. And I was going to say this before. When we did the first Muppets film, and you and I were teamed up a lot, you would help me with Uncle Deadly a lot.
By the way, that one of my best jobs ever, Matt. I mean, seeing you enjoy us. Was it? Yeah, your first movie, was it?
Well, it was one of but it was certainly a big role for me. In that film. Yeah.
What joy that was, pal.
It was. But what I was going to say about you is that you always come to the table with alts. And it's always great to have alts. It's great and you're just like, what about, and I'm just going, ha, ha, ha. Sometimes I can try to slip them in there, or sometimes not. I mean, it was just like,
thank you for hearing them.
Team feeling. Yeah, absolutely. And it was a team feeling, and I feel like that's one of your strengths. Like, you're coming to make the project better. You're coming to make
Thank you.
everything better. Not you, not me even, but the whole thing.
Wasn't that Jim
And I
saying was the
appreciate
best idea wins out? And I didn't have that experience with him.
No, yeah.
I wish I did, because it would have probably what a guidepost that would have been.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can all kind of carry that forward.
Absolutely, I think so, and everybody needs to be heard.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Back to the rapid fire questions. What is your biggest weakness as a puppeteer or performer?
Oh boy, forgetting that less is more. Really listening, not giving, lip service to listening,
Lip sync is good. Lip service is bad.
And when you're right-handing, lip sync doesn't help you.
No, that doesn't help.
And being a right hand is just following the energy, and sometimes, just putting a quiet period on it, or not even moving at all, and just inhabiting and letting what's happening unfold, and being a part of, not always needing to have the spotlight.
I like that you turned your biggest weakness into a positive.
I'm trying.
I really love that. What's one of your favorite things about being a Muppet performer, Bruce?
Oh, God. The people and the faces, like when you guys were working and during the series, I was assigned to just taking pictures, and Key and Peele. Two of the most working people in show business, and they were like, "We're so happy to be here," and I'm saying, "Oh my God, you guys are amazing! No, you're amazing!" And I had Animal, and it's like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing!" And they were just like, "Oh my God!" And they were just like these bubbly boys, and it was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anything, whatever you need, we're here." Walking into somebody's business, on location, and people are just losing their minds, and you're just there to say, "You bet, we're so glad to be here." And just making people's day with the Muppets is the best thing in the world.
If you weren't a puppeteer, what do you think would be your career?
Oh, I thought about this too. Oh man, I got a lot of energy. So I mean, and I love nature. I don't know, some sort of like adventurer. Something with flying. When I did Things That Go and Things That Fly, when I was co-starring with Kermit and stuff, was the greatest thing, I remember Bill going up in a plane, and he had a lipstick camera, and I don't know how he did that. And I was on a roller coaster, and I had a fake arm, and then I threw up, and I was done for the day. I mean, it's thrill-seeking. So, I mean, it'd have to be something exciting like an astronaut, park ranger, gold medalist, travel job, something physical.
My last question for you, Bruce. Jerry Nelson once said to me, "Sesame Street's great, but always have something that is your own, that you create, that comes from you." So, Bruce Lanoil, what is that for you?
And it's not a show business thing. It's family. I mean, breaking the chains of whatever it is that locks people down and not to be happy. The family that I'm in right now, with Nick and Jenna and Laura, our nuclear family is the greatest. It's the greatest thing that I am privileged to be a part of, And when we go camping, I missed out on a number of movies and things that I could have done, because when we went to the beach and I learned how to pull a trailer, and we got camp set up, and I'm cooking all the meals outside, and we have the campfire going, and you could see the light in my children's eyes. They're free. The beach, they told me, is like their second home, because we would make a fire. We would have their friends. Anybody who wanted to come was by the fire. If I can make a fire that warms the heart and soul of the people I love, then I have done what I'm here to do on this earth, And so I hope I can always be that kind of flame for the people I care about.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much for talking to me today on Below the Frame. I appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. You are a joy, and may we have adventures and stay healthy for all of them, my friend.
I think we will, and I'll see you on the next one.
I love it. Can't wait.
Well, that's it. That's Below the Frame. We will be back next week with a brand new episode where we'll be speaking with the Muppets Studio, so don't miss that one. Get updates and stuff about Below the Frame and Muppets, Sesame Street, and pretty much anything else I feel like posting on my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok accounts at WelcomeMattV, or just search my name. Below the Frame is produced by me, Matt Vogel. The theme song was written by Stephanie DeBruzzo and performed by my band, The Mighty Weaklings. The podcast artwork was created by Dave Holteen at DaveHolteenDesign.com. Thanks to Bruce Lanoil, Frankie Cordero, Noel MacNeal, and as always, my son Jack, for being a part of this episode. And thanks to you, the fans, for listening. I am Matt Vogel. We will see you next time when we go below the frame. Bye-bye.
Go, go, go below the frame.